The following is a special presentation of Tony Kurre Radio.
Welcome once again to a fantastic K4Wins. It is Tony Kurre along with my three partners, K4, Las Vegas Sun. He's the executive director and editor up there in the upper left-hand corner. Right below him is Kai Gregory, and man's been handicapping his entire life. He knows both sides of the story. He is an expert in the business, and of course, the Birmingham Racecourse. I want to call you the commissioner, but you're the executive director down there, along with the Forge Creek Indians. K4 joins me, and also, of course, my trusted friend in everything I do when it comes to television. We have a local TV show called ABC 33's Starting Lineup, which airs every Saturday morning if you're in around town, or you go to our YouTube channel. You can check us out. K4Wins.com, K4Wins.com, at K4Winners on the X format. You can also find us, of course, on our own YouTube channel. Just pull up K4Wins, K4Wins on our YouTube channel, and we'll get after it. 46 days to college football, 23 days until the Hall of Fame game between the Lions and the Chargers. And, of course, you can't get here soon enough, my friend. I know it's a crap game, but it's still in Canton. It's still pro football, man. And we are a week out from the All-Star game. We're going to get into some big-time stuff today. But first of all, gentlemen, how are we all doing? Everything good?
Good morning.
Good morning. Kai, let's start off with you. Give us how we did last week, and then we're going to get into some of our top five locks for some playoffs. Go.
Hey, also one thing to remember is because we have actually gotten some questions on our email from a couple of different shows, K4Winners@gmail.com. Real easy, real basic, K4Winners@gmail.com. So yesterday, big day, in my opinion, 5-0 yesterday, which took us to 19-12, last week. But the 5-0 day yesterday took us to 575, 304, and 4 this year, and hit our 1,000th win last night since we started this August 1st.
Yeah,
1,000 wins, 1,544, and 24.
I don't need to mention that with 1,000 wins, do the math times. So you're a $100 player. You're probably doing pretty good.
Yeah, what's the over-under to get to 2,000? How many days?
We got to get that done. We got to get that done within a year's time. We got to get 1,000 wins within a year. We have set the standard for ourselves. So let's get that done. Before we get into Major League Baseball, we do want to talk some college football. If you did watch our TV show here locally, Case, Kip, and myself, we came up with our 5 dead stone locks to make the 12-team playoff in college football. Now, I realize there's 12 teams to get in. We have been doing this for a long time. We should hit all 5. It should not be that difficult to name 5, I would think. And with that being said, there are several teams, obviously, that would be pretty easy to pick. I know we all like to get outside of ourselves a little bit and pick something a little different. I know the legend on our show, he actually had Miami, had the U, and he also picked Florida as a dead stone lock. It's better to be boring and right than exciting and wrong. I keep telling my son that. Don't go with the heart, go with the head, and it's better to be boring and right than exciting and wrong. So, Kai, we have not gotten your 5 games. We're going to go around the horn quickly here, and then we'll get into some plays going on. We got Wimbledon going on as well. Let's start with Case Keefer. Our first NFL games coming up here in just about 23 days, but our first college game in 46 days. We're talking college football now. Give me your first college football team to make the playoffs.
And first NFL training camps we were talking about in 8 days. I don't know, maybe I'm too technical, but the verbiage of locks made it so that I guess I was like you, and I think you have to go boring. I mean, Miami and Florida as locks is that's a really good locks.
I know, right?
I'd say it's interesting that there's 8 teams that are odds-on favorite to make the playoffs. Ohio, in this order: Ohio State, Texas, Penn State, Oregon, Georgia, Alabama, Notre Dame, and Clemson. I believe all 5 of mine were in that group, but you just wanted me to start with one?
Yeah, start with one. Go around.
You said it lock, so I'm going to be chalk. I'll just go with the favorite, the defending national champions. I mean, Ohio State's as high as like minus 700 to make the playoffs. So if I had a first draft pick, even though I think I'm definitely lower on them than the market, you use the word locks. We're going to be technical. I'd have to go with Ohio State as my first pick.
Yeah, and go with, tell me why you're going with who you're going with. Obviously, the defending champions. I've got them as well. Ryan Day, of course, has never lost more than 2 games in a year. 4 of those losses coming the last 4 years to the Michigan Wolverines. They're the defending champions, and it just goes to show you can lose that big game. They got, of course, that game at the Big House this year. You can lose that game and still win a national title, which is good for Ohio State fans. But I'm looking at quarterback Julian Sayings, and of course, you got a Jeremiah Smith up there. The wide receiver came out and said, "We will never lose to Michigan again." I don't know how long he's planning on being at Ohio State, but they got Texas, they got Penn State at home, and again, they go to the Big House at the end of the year. So I definitely have to say Ohio State is definitely one of my teams to make the Final Five. Kip, what you got?
Well, I'm going to go the same direction. Although on TV I held my nose while I was doing it because picking Ohio State is revolting. But I don't think you can deny it. I'm all about looking. The team's case mentioned the top 8. Even I think I expanded out to like 12. I really scrutinized the schedule and looked for potential landmines on the terrain there. But I've got Ohio State because that first game against Texas is huge, but it's in Columbus. I don't see Texas going up there with, and I don't care if he's the Heisman favorite, and an inexperienced quarterback in that environment in Arch Manning. He might have been great in prep school at a private school, religious school in New Orleans. This is the big stage against the defending champion. I think Ohio State has a big edge there. And I think those kind of games, and another one of my top 5 has one of those games too, first week when we'll get to that. But I've got to go with Ohio State because schedule-wise, if they clear this hurdle against Texas right off the bat, they've got Penn State, but that game's in Columbus also. I think their schedule stacks up really well for them.
Kylie going 4 for 4 in the Buckeyes, and tell us why.
Let's see. Ohio State lost 14 players to the NFL. I disagree with people. I'm really iffy, and I'm more siding towards Texas in week 1 right now. Their biggest game are at home. They do go to Michigan. But reverse pivot, my first pick, Boise.
Wow.
Why?
The only iffy game I see on their schedule is at Notre Dame. I think
Notre
they win
Dame.
every single one of the rest of their games.
All right, there you have it. We've got one right outside the box and a guaranteed lock. Write it down, folks, because we're going to go back and look at these a little bit later on. Give me your second team, Case.
On paper, I actually like this team better than Ohio State, but Kip nailed it. The game is at Ohio State, which has to mean something. Also, I basically picked Ohio State as a hedge because obviously I'm betting a lot of this, and I have a lot of futures now. I have 0 exposure on Ohio State. Like I said, I think I'm lower on them than the market. Not only did they lose, I think it's like 24 draft picks over the past 2 years. And I'm almost always, you see some decline with that. They lost both coordinators. Chip Kelly's now here. With the Raiders, and Jim Knowles is the highest paid assistant in college football history with Penn State. Now they poached him. So I think there are issues with Ohio State. I just think, they still have probably the most expensive roster. And I trust the market time and time again. I'll tell you, I trust people that are betting on this with big money, and they're the biggest favorites. So it was kind of a hedge. Means I'm not all that high on Ohio State compared to anything else, but I do think they're the most likely playoff. I just think the SEC is a lot closer with those 3 teams. I think you could convince me any 3 are the best. In the Big Ten, it's just a clear 1-2 to me. Ohio State and Penn State. Pick your poison. I like I said, I like Penn State on paper more, but they're going to Ohio State. But Penn State would be the clear second choice to me, given their schedule, their conference. I'd be absolutely shocked if both Penn State and Ohio State aren't in the playoff at the end of the day.
Since we're talking Texas, too, I'm going to go with them. They're absolutely loaded on both sides of the ball. They have just done a fantastic job. And by the way, they lost absolutely no one major to the portal, which means people want to be at Texas. They want to play at Texas. They do have Ohio State and Georgia on the road. They had some red zone issues last year. They missed a lot of tackles. But this football team is just going to be just a juggernaut again. And I know Arch Manning, we don't see a lot of him. He's going to be a sophomore this year. He's got the name behind him, and I just feel like they're going to put him in a position to just be really, really good. But again, Texas is, their defense is just absolutely filthy. And of course, we know defense wins championships. So I'm going to go with those Texas Longhorns. Kip, who's your second team?
Well, I might as well, since Texas is on my list as well. I don't like them at Ohio State. I just think that's an awfully tough place to open a season. I do think Case hit on something that I've been really thinking about, though. I think the Chip Kelly defection from Ohio State is going to have major implications, because I'm convinced that when they turned it around after they flop against Michigan last year in the last game, I'm convinced Chip Kelly went to Ryan Day and said, "Look, we got the best players. We gotta play like it." I'm still not sold on Ryan Day. Losing both of those coordinators, Ohio State does have some potential warts, but I just don't see in their schedule a lot of landmines. But I do think Texas, even if they lose the games at Ohio State and at Georgia, the rest of their schedule, all we've done in the SEC this year is flip the conference schedule to different venues, but you play all the same teams you played last year. And Texas played the 5 weakest teams in the conference, numbers 12 through 16. So they're playing those same teams again this year. I don't see them. A 10-2 Texas team is a lock for the playoffs.
All right, Kai, you went with Boise State, your first team. Who's your second?
My second one is I like the defense, and I like it even more with Chris Ash as the new defensive coordinator and their joke of a schedule. And I will go with the Notre Dame Fighting Irish.
Yeah, and there's been a lot of if you pull up Notre Dame right now, everyone's talking about how Coach Free, man, it's cool to be rooting for the Catholics again, which is kind of cool. Since I practice Catholicism, we don't get that a whole lot.
And an American Pope.
Outside what our priests are doing wrong, it's nice to be able to root for their football team. All right, Case, give me your third team. Go, baby.
Yeah, third team. So I'm on Notre Dame as well. I will say it's problematic. I don't know if you saw, but that I shouldn't even try to pronounce his name. But their first round NFL draft pick for the second straight year, Charles Jargish or whatever, got hurt in a UTV accident. I guess there's a big UTV race in South Bend, so you connect the dots. He was probably participating over the weekend. So now they've already got 2 of their starters hurt on the offensive line again. It was like they beefed up their depth. We thought this wasn't going to be a problem this year. I still think people might be sleeping on just how good Notre Dame's roster is. So I'd still reluctantly put them as a lock, my final lock, but I am worried about some of the injuries. I guess going in order, though, since it's third, I kind of already spoiled one. Well, I guess I'm going to kind of disagree with well, not disagree, because if you're telling me right now, gun to my head, does Texas make the playoff? I'm saying yes. But it sounds like I'm by far the lowest on Texas of us 4. I guess it's just in my nature. I can't go with the 5 absolute chalkiest. I got to find one team to pick against. We talk about Ohio State losing a lot to the draft. I mean, Ohio State or Texas, excuse me. I think what really differentiated them last year in every game except for the Georgia games, where they were just dominant up front. They mauled everyone. I think they had 12 guys go in the draft, including 6 linemen between the offense and defense. They've lost just a ton of those big guys up front the last 2 years. I think 5 or 6 first 2-round draft picks. I mean, I know they have a lot of talent, and their roster is probably, right up there with Ohio State in terms of spending, but it's tough for me to think you're just going to roll right out there without all these NFL guys and be as good as you were up front the last few years. So if my life depended on it, I'd be picking Texas as one of my locks, but I had to go against one of the absolute odds-on favorites, and to me, that was Texas that I landed on. So the next team, and my answer probably would have been different 2 weeks ago, but it's similar to the Big Ten, where I went Ohio State over Penn State because they have the game at home. I think my third pick would have to be Georgia. I like Alabama a little bit better on paper, but that game's early in the season at Georgia. There's some buzz around Georgia. There always is, but supposedly this is the first year where it seems like they might have nailed the transfer portal, hit on a lot of these kids. So if it was at Alabama, I'd be Alabama, but I'm going to go Georgia. I think it's big they get that game at home.
Yeah, and before I got Georgia in here as well, but I don't want to get Clemson out of the way because I feel like that's the one team everyone's been kind of holding out on a little bit. Dabo Swinney's got everything coming back, 67 of the 73 scholarship players. Pro Football Focus has Clemson tops in 6 of its 10 possession groups, which is unheard of. It's never happened before. And Klubnik not only has some great wide receivers, and TJ Moore, this kid is unbelievable. He's 36-6 last year, 36 touchdowns, 6 picks. Threw for 3,639 yards, 12th overall in QBR, and he didn't look that good last year. And I'm sitting there looking. I saw him live 3 times, and he was overthrowing guys, yet the guy still had 36 touchdowns and 6 picks. This is his year. They have an easy schedule with LSU and FSU at home. They do go on the road at the end of the year against South Carolina, which I think is going to be just a huge game. But I think Clemson's going to be all back, and I can't believe I'm saying this. I know that Dabo's not a portal guy, but it seems to be working for him this year. They're all buying in. He said, buy the stock while it's down. It is going to be huge this year for the Clemson Tigers. I'm taking the Clemson Tigers. Kip, who you got on your third team?
Well, again, I'm just jumping back in when ones I have on my list are being
Sure.
identified here. So you heard on starting lineup, I have Clemson as well, not because I'm that high on Dabo or the program, but the ACC gets an automatic qualifier who wins the championship in the league.
Yeah.
And looking at the schedule, I don't see very many landmines for Clemson there, and I don't think the ACC overall is that strong. So I really feel like they're at the end of the day going to be the last man standing in the ACC, which makes them a lock. I do want to comment real quick on Notre Dame. I'm concerned. I know Notre Dame's loaded with personnel. I'm concerned about their schedule. I tell you, I always look for those potential places that of problems. But Notre Dame first game is at Miami. That's a pretty challenging opener. And then they come home and host Texas A&M, who we really don't know what they're going to have, but they're going to be a competitive team. And the way they got out of the gate last year, losing in week 2 to Central Michigan, I just see some landmines there. I keep using that term. I got to think of an alternate term. But
Northern Illinois.
Yeah.
Northern Illinois, not Central
Northern
Michigan.
Illinois. I'm sorry. My bad. That's even worse. But it's a MAC. All the MAC teams blended together in my mind. Thank you for that clarification. They also host Boise State, which is not a gimme, and they've got USC on the schedule, and Lincoln Riley's been loading up the coffers there on roster. I just think they have some challenging games, so they're not going to make my list of the chalky teams. That's the one I'm leaving out. But I've got Clemson as my ACC champ.
Kai, give me your third, bro.
I saw that pop up from Vic Damon. Don't sleep on Michigan. Well, let me tell you, I'm snoring right through it. Just so you know, Vic, we will respond when people pop that up. But I do not. Michigan is going to lose to Ohio State this year at Michigan.
They ranked 129th in offense last year. I mean, this team can only go up.
Just mark it down. I don't care that they've got this quarterback and all this different stuff. I think Michigan loses quite a few games this year. So I'm absolutely snoring, sleeping 12 hours, 14 hours sleep on Michigan. My third team, even though I hate when they have 11 o'clock games at home, anytime this team plays an 11 o'clock game at home, absolutely bet against them. And even though they have 80% of their production back, I'm going to go with Clemson as well. But when they play at home, their 11 o'clock games are just god awful. And so far, I haven't seen any 11 o'clock games on the schedule, except I think the last game in South Carolina, they've already said 11 o'clock. But one of my favorite things to do, especially when Clemson is favored at home and their 11 a.m. games, is bet against them. But I do agree that I think the ACC sucks, and they've got a lot of people back, so I'll go with Clemson.
Kip, let's go number 4. I'm going to bounce it around a little bit here, and then we'll do Case. Kip, what you got for number 4?
I've got, how about them dogs? I think Georgia's going to be really a lot better than some people think. There's this buzz out there that Georgia's talent level has dropped off. I don't think that's true. Case mentioned the portal. Kirby Smart a lot more active. They have completely revamped the receiving core. They've brought in Malachi Branch, who's a game breaker from USC. Noah Thomas, the leading receiver last year for Texas A&M. They have Dylan Bell back. They have a bunch of young guys they developed during the season last year, and they've plugged in late in the portal situation in the spring the leading tackler from an Army team that overachieved last year, an edge kind of a player that's going to be a big infusion for their defense. And to complement Frazier, their outstanding freshman back from a year ago, they signed the leader from a surprising Illinois team last year who's like a 6'3", 240 guy, kind of a big back. I think Kirby has hit the jackpot in the portal, and Gunnar Stockton is getting a lot of flack Gunnar Stockton is a lot better than people are thinking. Even like people like Paul Feinbaum saying Gunnar Stockton didn't show him anything. Well, that Notre Dame game was just kind of a weird game down in the Sugar Bowl. It wasn't Gunnar Stockton deficiencies that cost him that game. It was the Georgia coaching approach. They really needed to just play an ugly defensive game. And I've been using the line that Gunnar Stockton wasn't asked to step in and replace Carson Beck. The game plan was for him to be Carson Beck, and he's got a different kind of skill set. I think Mike Bobo and the Bucs got to stop on the head coach's desk. Kirby Smart really did not take advantage of 4.5 weeks of preparation, and they didn't put anything in the offense really for that game that accentuated Stockton. I think he's going to be a big surprise. I think people are going to be shocked at how good a quarterback he's going to turn out to be.
Since you went with it, I'm going to hop on board too. The Georgia Bulldogs, they did lose that game against Notre Dame. Let's not take away anything from Notre Dame's defense that game too. They played lights out. They were all over the ball. Of course, they also lost that weird game to Ole Miss last year, which is not used to seeing. Zachariah Branch, of unbelievable wide receiver, is going to be on the other end. That Gunnar Stockton, one of the greatest names in quarterback play. Gunnar Stockton, you can't go wrong. You mentioned Nate Frazier, the running back. He's going to be back for another season. They did lose 4 O linemen, which I think is going to be huge. But again, it's not even like 3-star, 4-star guys. Everybody is a 5-star guy. Everybody wants to play, and he's got all of them. The defense is filthy. Got Miller, McCloy coming back. They did lose a couple players to the portal and a couple players to the NFL draft. But I fully expect Kirby Smart. I don't think Kirby Smart's ever going to have 2 down years in a row. And you could say last year was somewhat down. They made the playoffs. I mean, they played Notre Dame and almost got a chance to win a national title.
They won the SEC.
They did. And I mean, a lot of people are saying, what happened to Kirby Smart last year? I'm like, they won. They won the stinking SEC. I mean, how bad is it going to be?
Beat Texas twice.
Exactly. So I expect Georgia to come back and certainly be a lock. Case, what you got?
Oh, so I guess I guess the biggest place where we're all different is you guys are just all in on the orange teams, and I'm not. If there's 2 of these, if there's 2 of these big favorites that I just think that I'm a little more skeptical on, it's Texas and Clemson. I will say, as far as betting wise, Clemson has gotten, I mean, by far the most movement of these contenders. And it's not like people betting this in April or June have no idea and are just putting a few dollars down to be excited for the season. There's some real sharp betting hype on Clemson. And I know they bring everyone back. I don't know. I need to see it first. I think a lot comes down to that first game with LSU. Obviously, it's at Clemson. I just think LSU is going to put so much in this game. It's been such a story within the program that they keep losing these big non-conference openers. I like Garrett Nussmeier better than Cade Klubnik. I can't believe now that's like a hot take. I mean, I've seen people saying Cade Klubnik's going to be the first overall pick. I just don't see it. I mean, his top level is great, but he's been inconsistent his whole time. So I trust LSU.
Let me just point out, and I mentioned I saw him 3 times last year because my son goes to Clemson. I'm an eyes guy, and I know you are too, Case. I agree with you. I mean, when I was looking up his stats, I could not believe he had 36 touchdowns and only 6 picks. I could not believe he only had 6 picks last year because he was floating balls all over the place. And I'll tell you this, the fan base, he's gotten better every single year, remarkably better. And he was 12th overall in QBR, but you're right. He's getting no respect at all. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I mean, I think that maybe he did look good in the last game when they lost to Texas. He led that comeback, so I think maybe it's some recency bias. But I just feel like I don't know. I still need to see it a little bit more from Cade Klubnik, and I'm not saying the ACC is going to be great or anything, not on the level of the Big Ten or the SEC. But I guess one of my bigger things guiding me through the season, I do think the ACC is going to be a little bit better, and I think Clemson's schedule's a little bit tougher than people are letting on. You just look at their road games. I'm really high on Louisville this year, bringing Miller Moss in. Just seems like one of the best pure talented quarterbacks that Brown's been able to work with. They play at them at the end of the year. That's right before they go to South Carolina, who I'm not high on. I bet under, but I mean, that's a huge rivalry game. You never know there. They go to Georgia Tech, who still has Haynes King. I mean, Georgia Tech pulled some upsets last year, arguably should have beaten Georgia. So I think Clemson's schedule is a little bit tougher than people are letting on. They play SMU again, which obviously that game went down to the very wire. That's at home, but in the ACC championship. They go to North Carolina. I certainly think that it's going to be a sideshow there all year and not great with Bill Belichick, but you never know. There's some upside there. So I think Clemson's schedule a little bit tougher than I've heard people say. I'm just taking a wait and see approach with them. Maybe I'm dead wrong and they roll like the betting market's saying, but I'm going to have to pass on Clemson. So I guess therefore my final team is Alabama. Kind of similar to Georgia and me, and that's a great sales pitch by Kip. I love Georgia, but I'm not sold on Gunnar Stockton. I could be wrong. Maybe he's awesome this year. They do have a whole year to put the scheme more around his strengths, so we'll see. But I'm always drawn to these teams that I feel like have no weaknesses except quarterback, because then they have an upside that if you see something break through. And I think Alabama's an even better example than Georgia. I think Alabama checks every box as far as position groups. I think they're up there, absolutely loaded. And then quarterback to me is a little bit of a mystery. We'll see how, assuming Ty Simpson wins, he turns out. But Alabama and Georgia similar to that in me, whereas I don't see any reasons to be worried other than quarterback. And I think at least one of those two guys, Gunnar Stockton or Ty Simpson, I think one of them will really surprise us this year. And personally, I'm a little higher on Simpson, so we'll see.
K4Wins. I say K4Wins. That's funny. K4Wins, K4Wins, whatever it is, baby. It's a K. Kai's going to go next. K4Wins.com, K4Winners at K4Winners on X. Make sure you check us out on our YouTube channel, by the way. We want a special thanks to Angel and, of course, the Coastal Sports Network for having us on every single week. We're going to be adding another show coming up on Fridays, I believe, at 10 o'clock Central Time, a little bit later on this month, getting ready for college football. Kai, what you got next?
Well, Case said great sales pitch. I was going to give the Homer pick of the day award to Kip on his take on Georgia. I do believe that only Bammers could get more excited about their own team and as disillusioned as well. But y'all just stick with your chalk, and I'll be the contrarian. I like this team. They don't have Ohio State on the schedule. To me, their only iffy game is going to be at Penn State. I think they can win 10, if not 11, and I'll go fourth pick. I'll go with the Oregon Ducks.
And the Oregon Ducks right there, too. That's not really going outside the box, my friend. That was one of the 8 teams that spot on is going to probably go. And again, what's their over-under on wins? 10.5. I think they're one of 3 teams that's got double-digit wins. Case, what's your
nobody said them, so it's a little bit out there.
We still have a ways to go. Okay, well, if you're going to do that, then I'm going to go with my last one, which I don't think anyone's going to have. And I actually love it. Because you got to be a little different. You have to hang your hand on something. South Carolina has won 8 games.
Oh, God, what a waste.
8 games or more, 16 times. We'll see, 16 times in the 131 season history. Only twice have they improved in that record when they won 8 wins. Even when Steve Spurrier was there, they only did it twice. Lenore Seller, 18 touchdowns, 7 picks last year. He comes back as a sophomore. I fully expected something that they did not do with him. He ran the football on average of 16 times per ball game, but very rarely did they actually call quarterback runs for him. It was running for his life. He's got the wheels. He could be a dual guy. I expect a lot more design running plays for him. I think South Carolina comes back. They just got the huge commit, Noah Clark, which is going to be unbelievable. Beamer Ball is back, and you look at their schedule, Vandy at home, Missouri at home, Kentucky at home, Oklahoma at home, Alabama at home, Clemson at home. They got to go on the road to LSU in Ole Miss. South Carolina was 1 game away from making the playoffs last year. They're going to be a lot better this year than they were last year. I'm going South Carolina. How about that going balls to walls against you, my friend? South Carolina is my dead balls lick right there, pal. Coming up here to win the playoffs. Kip, what you got?
Well, I'm an SEC guy. I don't care who knows it. I don't care who doesn't like it. And again, scrutinizing schedules, I only see 2 possible problems on Alabama's schedule this year. The Tide is at Georgia and at South Carolina. Those are both challenging road games, but the rest of the schedule, pretty cream puff. I can't see Alabama being any worse than 10-2, and that's going to put them in the playoffs.
All right, Kai, your 5th and final.
I liked how Case brought in the Army transfer for Georgia, and but their leading running back is going to replace Cam Skidaboo. So I didn't want to go. I mean, it could be really easy to pick Ohio State and Georgia and Texas and all that. But I'm going to go out to somebody, although week 1 against K-State, and I really like Kansas this year, I'm going to go with the Arizona State Sun Devils again as my 5th and final pick. So suck your South Carolina cock.
There you
Gamecock.
go. Ahead and write those down, and we'll see how far we get in the season before we can start marking up losers. I think
And
with
start chastising each other for our bad picks.
yeah, maybe South Carolina and Arizona State could play for the national title. That'd be fun. We got 46 days away to college football. K4Wins.com, K4Wins.com on X at K4Winners. You can also check us out on our YouTube channel, which, by the way, is live right now. And, of course, the show is going to be live. It's live every Tuesday morning, 10 o'clock Central Time. And we're going to add another show coming up on Fridays because one show a week just isn't enough. We're obviously giving out a lot of picks. And during the college football season, we will have those picks coming up, early picks and futures on Tuesdays and Fridays. Or get balls the walls on our picks for the big weekend. It's going to be unbelievable. Let's get into some Major League Baseball. We got some interesting things going on right now. Did I see the Toronto Blue Jays actually leading their division? They are 9-1 their last 10 games. You got Toronto, Detroit, Houston, and of course you got Philadelphia, Chicago Cubs, and the LA Dodgers leading in the National League. When you're talking wild cards, Yanks, Rays, Mariners right now making the playoffs. And then, of course, you got the Mets, the Brewers, and the Giants picking up 3 spots in Major League Baseball. Kyle, I'll start with you because I know you're a big MLB guy. Anything interesting going on here? We're a week out from the All-Star break. And normally, you kind of have an idea of what everything's kind of looking like. Really no major surprises, I don't think. I don't think a lot of people had Toronto certainly leading the league. And by the way, they were 7 games out 2 weeks ago. The Yankees just fell apart. They lost, 6 or 7 games in a row. Toronto rolled off 9 out of 10 and just flipped them off. I don't know if that holds, but your thoughts so far halfway through the season?
When Toronto got their 9th win in a row last night, and yeah, the Yankees have run off 6 straight losses twice. They've been a huge disappointment. As a Red Sox fan, I've absolutely loved it, and hope it continues. Toronto team's got some skill, but I'll tell you what, it's crazy because this is. I looked this up. This is at this time during the year. This is the least amount of teams in Major League Baseball with a winning road record.
Wow.
How many teams y'all guess has a winning road record
3.
in Major League Baseball? Well, it's not that low.
You asked.
11.
It's actually 7 teams with a winning road record in Major League Baseball. Best home record is, depending on how you gauge this, I would gauge it just because of losses, but one less game. Best home record in baseball is Houston and Detroit. Houston's 32-15. Detroit's 31-14. So the worst home record, Colorado, 10-36. Best road record, Detroit, 27-20. Worst road record, the White Sox, 11-36. Some of those Tony Kurre useless stats. We've only got a run differential of losing teams with positive runs down to 3. Texas is 44-47, but they are plus 24 runs. Atlanta is 39-50, and they're still plus 4 runs. And Arizona is 45-46, plus 3 runs.
Let's back up a little bit. Kip, you're a huge Atlanta Braves fan. I mean, you are almost the general manager of that baseball team, and I know how painful this is to see your team 11 games under 500. What's going on with this team? I know they're not runners in scoring position. They've been horrible, and I know that. But at this point, if you're the GM, what changes are you making? Are you just hoping like hell it just starts popping back up again? We know this team's got firepower. What's going on?
Well, the hoping that pops back up again has been the philosophy all year.
Yeah.
I have had people tell me as recently as a couple of days ago, well, you watch, the Braves are going to be awesome in the second half. I don't know what they're basing that on if they watch that team every day. They are just the worst ever of putting the ball in play at fundamental times. All weekend long in this ball, they got swept by the Orioles. The Orioles have been sputtering. They've got a real good core group of young guys, but their pitching is horrendous, and yet they come into Atlanta and sweep the Braves. Atlanta has chances to score in bunches and never come up with a clutch hit because they don't manufacture runs. They don't use they've got abundant speed on their team, but they play for a 3-run homer because they still think that they're living in 2023. That was an unbelievable year. They hit 307 home runs, tying for the most of all time.
Mm-hmm.
They don't play any other. They don't move runners. They don't try to steal bases. They've got guys in serious decline. Amazing the 2 years the Braves got out of Marcell Ozuna, but he is done. He's only hit one home run in like the last 20 some odd games. He's just an automatic out right now. He's in the 230s average wise. Ozzy Albies, who was a phenomenal young player in his early 20s, he's like the guy in high school that's fully mature when he's in 10th grade and gets to the point now where he's done. He's 28 years old and he's done. He plays like an old man. So the team is really a disaster. It's Austin Riley has got a lot of ability, but he strikes out all the time. Matt Olson just was named to the All-Star team. I've been a detractor of his, but he's really been the only guy with a pulse lately. Even Acuna's getting the Braves cancer. He had a horrible homestand, only had 2 hits, I think, in the 9 games. They went 2-7 on their crucial 9-game homestand. They are done. The Braves are a disaster. And people are saying, well, they need to be sellers. Who are they going to sell? Who wants anybody on the Braves?
They've got too many good-looking pieces, though. Seriously, I mean, I mentioned to you on our other show about Acuna Jr. Some people were talking about perhaps him going on the block. There's too many good pieces. And this feels like, and I don't know, maybe I'm totally wrong here. This feels like if you move some guys out of Atlanta, all of a sudden they find their bats. I don't know why I feel that way. We've seen that happen with managers. Something tells me that something's going on in the locker room or something. Something just doesn't feel right with this Brave squad. I don't know what it is, but it feels like they move out. Maybe they find themselves.
Well, Snitker is just an organization guy. He's always been the guy who pats everybody on the back and say, that's okay, we'll get him tomorrow. I think Brian Snitker is a great organization guy, but it's time to give him a ceremonial job upstairs. They need somebody fiery that's going to demand performance from players, and Brian Snitker is just not the guy.
All right, to continue, Kai, a little bit. I'm sitting here looking at, and I just want to throw a couple teams out because you threw these out before we started the show. And I know, Kip, you had some ideas too. So I want to get both your thoughts in case certainly chime in as well. But some teams that perhaps are doing really, really well, do they have staying power? And I'm just going to throw a couple teams out there. Obviously, your Bo Sox are sitting there 2 games over 500. They're going to be in the mix. The Tampa Bay Rays right now are in the playoffs, which I think would be surprising to some folks. The Twins are playing really well despite they're under 500. They're right there. Minnesota Mariners, they are also, or should I say the Seattle Mariners, they're also in the playoffs. They're 6 games over 500. Any other teams that the Milwaukee Brewers are playing well, but I think a lot of people expected that. I did not expect the St. Louis Cardinals to have the kind of season they're having because they're usually a second half team. They're 5 games over 500. And they're my Reds. I had the over 78.5 wins in that game just because of Terry Francona. I think he's good for 15 wins just by himself. I think he brings that energy into a locker room wherever he's gone. He's been successful. But Kai, anything that has been sounding surprising you? Do you see any team that perhaps is around that 500 mark that can actually make a run late in the second half?
I think we've got an interesting last week before the All-Star break. Boston is getting their groove on because they're playing Colorado. But then they finish up right before the All-Star break with Tampa Bay. The Yankees and Mariners are playing right now, and then the Yankees have the Cubs. I am really, really high on this Detroit team. I love their pitching. I like the way they play. I really am. I think Houston is one of those teams that is going to fall off a little bit. I don't think that they have the sustained pitching, especially their bullpen, to keep it up. I know some people might disagree with that, but that's fine. Seattle, how much longer can Cal carry him? I don't know that he's going to end with 85 home runs, which is probably what he's going to have to get them going. And I think the Yankees pitching situation is, and then I don't know what Brett Boone's doing because the Yankees have the talent to be much better than they are.
And they're healthy right now too.
Yeah, and they're just not doing much of anything. I'm going to be real interested over the All-Star break to be able to take a second and look and see where everybody is like that, and then also to see how much money the Yankees go and spend on somebody to try to get back where they think they should be.
That's going to happen.
Yeah, everyone was talking about Soto, and all the Yankees fans were like, "Why didn't we get up Soto?" I'm like, "Good Lord Almighty!" I mean, they got a guy's got 33 bombs and 76 ribbies at the half, and of course, Judge. We still got a week to go. You brought in Giancarlo, who's been banged up. It seems like every single day he's been with they got the bats, and I mean, obviously, you bring in Soto, you'd have another big bat. But Case, what's your thoughts? I don't think the Yankees are just kind of going through a midsummer kind of thing. I know to lose 6 games in a row is certainly not what they want to see, and particularly to do it to the Mets, that certainly doesn't help. But I fully expect the Yankees to be there at the end. And then, of course, you were talking about the Houston Astros. They just swept the Dodgers. What you got, Case?
Yeah, I think the Yankees you find as high as like plus 125 to win the division right now. It's not something I bet, but it's certainly something I'm thinking about. Not necessarily. I still think they're the best team despite the slump. I don't fully buy this Blue Jays come on. I know they won by a lot last night against the White Sox, but I think that Angels series before that, I know as someone who I think I bet the Angels every game, or at least 2 of them. They won every game by 1 run in just miraculous fashion. I mean, the Blue Jays are just on like the heaters of all heaters. I got to think that's going to peter out. And then who knows, maybe the Rays or even the Red Sox, who's pitching, I'm down on. Maybe one of them get hot and catches. I still think you could conceivably convince me 4 teams win the AL East, but I'd have to lean Yankees long term. I just think all the metrics are there. They kill the ball. They've had some weird, hot and cold streaks. I still probably think it's ultimately the Yankees. I got to say though that we're burying the lead here. It's coming down to the wire. This all-star bet between Kai and I. What did I have? It was 4.5 division. Division. I think Kai, you took the under. I think right now we're at 5. Toronto's the only one that's passed. So the NL East, it might come down to that. I think that the Phillies got a 1-game lead.
Yeah, what was the bet again? Refresh everyone's memory.
I don't know if I'm wording it the best, but I think I said that I think it was over under 4.5 division leaders would be the same.
And this was about a month ago. Yeah.
That was about a month ago. And right now we're sitting there at 5.
Which I thought was a really good line. I didn't have a strong case either way, over or under, but Kai was adamant that there would be more, and it's coming down to the wire. I do think it's going to be the NL East that decides it. I think in Kip's whole Braves thing, I don't disagree with a lot of it, but I think the biggest thing is I think the Braves might have been about to make a run with this rotation they had built, and now Sale and Schwellenbach.
Yeah, that's terrible.
That's why I think they're done. I mean, those guys are unbelievable. Sale won the Cy Young last year and arguably was better this year.
Unhittable.
Schwellenbach is the most promising young pitcher in baseball, arguably.
Strider's unbelievable.
They still have him, but I just think, with the depth of all 5 of those guys, with that gone, and I haven't been a Snicker guy all year. I think they should get rid of him too. So I don't know who I favor between the Phillies and the Mets. Probably the Mets, I think, get it together at some point, but that's going to be one of the more fun divisions to watch. It's just crazy. We've gotten to this point where it's not going to be a 3-team race like it looked. Certainly, I think even with the Braves starting slow, I think talent-wise on paper, and that's where I actually disagree. The only part that I disagree with Kip a lot, if they choose to be sellers, there are a lot of pieces that they can get a lot better. I mean, there's already been Godfather offers for Acuna and stuff, which I personally wouldn't want to make as a Braves fan, but I do think if that's what they decide, they want to be in the future and build for the next decade. If they sell all these guys off, there are few teams in baseball that I think would command. They could get as many pieces as
they would be insane because they've still got Acuna under control for 6 more years
at a great price.
I agree. Price, they can't move him. That'd be absurd.
But I think you can get things for these other guys too. I mean, this is still. This is still a really talented team, which is why it's so frustrating that they're so bad. But I don't know. Any hope of them turning around for me went out the door with Sale and Schwellenbach out.
Yeah, that was a disaster.
It's really hard from a gambling standpoint, too, because on paper, you keep looking at this team and you're just waiting for them to get hot. And I know a couple of days ago, Kip, you had minus $1.80. I forget who they had on the mail. Maybe it was Sale, but and I'm sitting there going, this team, and they end up losing again. And I'm thinking to myself, I don't take a minus $1.80 game lightly by any stretch because you're losing 2-1 on your money. But it's just like you keep looking at this team, you're like, when's it going to happen? And we've seen this in the past. And normally when you're sitting there waiting for something like that, we see it in college football all the time. It usually doesn't happen. It just doesn't happen. It's just not there.
Yeah, that's for sure. So they're they're a dumpster fire right now, and I'm not optimistic that they're on the road to close out the first half. They're going to be in a deeper hole. They're playing the A's for 3 games in Sacramento, and then going to St. Louis. Coming off that 2-7 homestand, I just don't think there's much hope for them. I'm intrigued though. I guess. Would love to hear everybody's response. All year, it's been just assumed that it's Yankees Dodgers, but so a lot of these teams you mentioned, I really would like to. I don't know if there's such a bet, but there's probably 8 or 10 teams that I think are in position that if they get hot in the second half. I don't think the presumption that Yankees Dodgers is very safe right now. I know the Dodgers still have great personnel, but their pitching is a disaster from the injury standpoint, and the Yankees pitching is just bad. So, and the Yankees are not scoring a lot of runs either with that lineup. So, I don't know. I think maybe a good way to look if you're looking to bet the second half in baseball is to start looking at some of these teams that are sort of on the horizon. Kai's Red Sox, when I watch their series in Atlanta, they are so young, and these guys are just going to continue to get better. Those are dangerous teams to me in the second half, and I am intrigued by Detroit because personnel wise and performance wise, they have been arguably right with the top 2 teams, and maybe the Tigers are a legitimate contender. So
They're
I
14 games up on Kansas City. Kansas City's having a pretty decent year. I mean, they're only 4 games under, but they're 24 games over 500. Detroit is. That's unbelievable.
yeah,
Detroit's been very
incredible.
consistent. When you look at their last 10, anytime you look at it, it's 6-4, 7-3, 7-3,
Mhm.
6-4, and that's just the way it goes. Detroit has just been very consistent, and I mean they have one of the best pitchers in baseball, and their rotation, their mid-level pitching for the bullpen and their closers are just doing really well. They don't go give a lot of games away like other teams do.
Yeah, and you talk about the Dodgers and Yankees too. The one advantage I think the Dodgers have, and obviously it was huge to get Shohei back in the rotation. I think obviously we keep thinking about what a great bat he's got, but let's remember he came in as a pitcher and he's just fantastic as a pitcher too. So to have him back on the mound again is probably going to be huge for him. I don't know how long he'll go. But yeah, from start to finish, what they're 20 games over 556 and 36. I firmly believe though the Yankees are going to find themselves, and will certainly the Yankees fans will not allow them not to find themselves.
They'll try to buy it.
Yeah.
If they don't find it, they'll try to buy it.
But I do think it's great that to see the Mets are having quite the season as well. We expected obviously with a big trade to get Soto in there, and they're 13 games over 500. It's great to see that Subway Series, and from a baseball standpoint, I love to see that as well. So that's good. I did want to ask the two of you, and I talked to Kip about this on the Kiefer and Curry show here on Tony Curry Radio. By the way, K4Wins.com, K4Wins.com, at K4Winners on the X format, and wherever you want to check out, of course, on YouTube, you can get on there. Vic Damone's timed in again. Don't sleep on Michigan, but also Tiger baseball. You are correct. We've been all over it. But there's a game up in Bristol, Tennessee that's going to be played coming up on August 2nd with the Cincinnati Reds and the Atlanta Braves. What are your thoughts, Case, on you? Listen, you've got the frozen tundra being played at Wrigley Field. You've got basketball games being played on ship decks. We've got games being played. I forget what the game was played up at Northwestern. I like seeing games. I'm not crazy about NASCAR in the Coliseum. I think it's too small. But are you into this Bristol thing, the MLB at the Motor Speedway?
I totally forgot that was this year, actually, till you just said it. I remember the big announcement, and it certainly looked cool when they put the renderings out and stuff, but something I hadn't thought about it might have been 2 years ago when they announced that, or last year maybe. So yeah, that'll be cool to watch. It's too bad the Braves and the Reds aren't better. I guess the Reds still have a chance. I mean, the whole NL Central's just turned out to be better than people expected. Maybe they can make a run. Like I said, we've kind of already written the Braves obituary this year, but yeah, it seems like the perfect 2 teams for that location, and it'll certainly look cool. I'm not going to commit to watching the whole game, but I'll tune in for a little bit and see what.
I didn't realize too the Bristol Motor Speedway is the 8th largest building for sports in the world. And you think of that, Bristol is a motor speedway and obviously a short track, right? And I've been there several times. That place holds 185,000 people. You could put a baseball field in the infield. That's how big that thing is. And that's where that baseball field's going, Kai. Should be a lot of fun to watch.
I mean, I remember when Tennessee played there, and they showed a rendering of Neyland actually fitting inside of Bristol.
Mm-hmm. Sure,
it's
is
amazing.
Isn't it crazy?
Because I saw the ticket prices, and we contemplated going. I mean, because it was a historic, yada yada. But I think it's stupid, especially with a little bitty baseball. You couldn't see shit in the football game from Tennessee. You're sitting in the 50-yard line, the best seats, watching a football game with a larger ball and all that, and you're sitting there with your binoculars to be able to follow stuff. I think it's going to be worse in baseball. I understand the reasoning in doing it, and you're trying to make money and sell a lot of tickets and get people into a different area. I might watch it on TV, but you couldn't pay me to go watch it in person.
Yeah, and my thing is too is they're talking about setting a Major League Baseball record, obviously with the largest crowd ever to see an MLB game. They could do that in a heartbeat because they could sell 185,000 tickets if they want. But they're also kind of being dubious in the fact that they're like, well, we don't want to sell tickets if there's not a good seat. And like you just said, if you buy the 60,000th ticket, you're probably sitting in shit land. You're not going to get good seats. Now with that standpoint. A lot of people talk about, March Madness and the Final Four. Sometimes when they do it in these huge arenas, or maybe they'll do it in a stadium. They did it over Mercedes Dome over in Atlanta, and you're selling 70,000 tickets. And at least you can sit there and say, I went to a Final Four game I was in. You are using binoculars the entire time, but at least you get a chance to go in. So if they want to set a record, Major League Baseball, they could certainly do that. But yeah, I don't know. I think it's neat when they do that, but for some reason, I'm not a short track guy. I like the fact that we're trying to put square pegs in round holes in all kinds of different sports. I think it makes it fun for the fan, and it gives you an opportunity to do something that's never been done before. And I'd certainly like to see another Major League Baseball game at Rickwood. Now that they put some more money into that thing, they obviously had Major League Baseball put a ton of money into that thing. It'd be a shame if we don't have Field of Dreams or something like that, a game there every single season. I think that'd be wonderful, particularly in the side of Townsend. People are like, where the hell am I? Is this Iowa? No, this is Birmingham, Alabama. You're on the west side. This is where we play baseball. This is where the big dogs used to play. All right, guys. Anything else that you want to add before the show? And by the way, we do the show every Tuesday morning at 10 o'clock. We're working with Coastal Sports Network to add a second show because one's just not enough. So we're working on doing something perhaps 10 o'clock Central Time on Fridays, right before the weekend gets underway. We're going to try to make that happen. So we'll let you know. Of course, you can follow us at K4Winners on Twitter, also known as X. Now check that out at K4Wins.com, K4Wins.com. Any last thoughts, Kip?
I'll just ask Case, who's going to win the British Open? Scotty Scheffler?
I do have some Scheffler. He's not actually. This week's going to be really telling. I love this event as far as non-majors. The Scottish Open's always great because all the basically all the best guys are there, and a lot of the DP World Tour guys, formerly known as the Euro Tour, are playing. So it's a big melting pot. I think typically this week I like guys that hit it further. I bet one of the favorites this week. I'm on Rory McIlroy. I got him 11-1 yesterday in the Scottish.
Wow.
I do not have any exposure to him in the Open Championship, so we'll see. Hopefully he does come through this week. I mean, he's just been lights out on this course where I think driving distance really matters, and he still hits it further than just about anybody. So Scheffler, I might have given it out. I think I gave it out on the starting lineup. I think I fired when he was plus 550 to win the Open. His form's kind of dipped a little bit, and he doesn't spend a ton of time in Europe. Unlike a lot of these guys, it seems like he just kind of shows up, and he is the best player. So I think he's got a great chance. I will say last week, still if you shop around and get it, I think you asked me the same question on here, and I said Tommy Fleetwood at 40-1 was ridiculous because he's playing like the third best player in the world, even though he can't win. He usually wins in Europe. I did see this week, seeing how the market have moved, like Circa, who takes the biggest bets, they moved to Fleetwood 20-1. So again, this is what you want to do. You want to beat the market. Hopefully you listened to me last week and got in on that Fleetwood. I would still say if you can find like a 30-1, I think he's a threat this week at the Scottish. He's the second shortest guy I took along with Rory. I don't know if Royal Portrush, even though Rory's played super well there where the Open is, I don't know if it's a great fit for how he's playing right now. So dream scenario this week is that Rory plays really well and hopefully wins at the Scottish, and then we can sell on him next week. I don't think he's getting that second major in a year. I am more on the Scheffler train, the Fleetwood train. I also bet Bryson DeChambeau, who I've been betting I think this is the third straight major I've been on him. I will say I kind of am feeling uncomfortable going into this Open because his form has kind of dipped as well. He was
when you say form is dipped, what do you mean?
It's just golf. It's a weird thing. You have it for one stretch. I mean, he was absolutely killing the ball. I believe on Live he was they only play 3 rounds, but I believe he was the leader after 2 rounds for maybe 4 straight tournaments. One of them was tied, but anyways, he only turned that into 1 win. So he was just playing better than anyone, basically. And now lately, it seems like his approach game's just real off. He's not hitting as many greens. His numbers have just dipped. So I guess in more layman's term, he's not playing as well as he was, in April and May or whatever. And usually the Open, these courses are so old, the distance doesn't matter quite as much. So the 2 shortest guys I have are Scheffler and DeChambeau, and I'm in a weird situation where going into a major, I'm not feeling super great about either of them. I still feel like Tommy Fleetwood's playing just as well as both of them. So if you can find something better than the 20, if I had to tell you to make a bet right now, it'd probably be him.
Kai, last thoughts?
I think it's a great time to get on Fleetwood. Rory's not going to win a major. I mean, let's be honest. He just chokes in majors. Maybe he'll win this week and go from there. But I'll tell you what, I'm fired up looking at scores. I had, tennis we hadn't really talked about a lot, but we've posted some things. And the American, my boy Fritz, is the 5 seed, has come in. He's in the semifinals. Unfortunately, he's probably going to face Alcaraz, which, good grief, that's rough. But then if he beats him, then I'll have to go through Skinner in the finals, it looks like. But I have him reaching the semifinals, and I have him in the finals, and I have him to win. All of this plus money getting to the semifinals was even plus for him, so I really love that. Just watch Sabalenka, come back and win. But I don't know why I like Swiatek in the bottom of that draw, even as the 8 seed coming up. If she can get it done today, there's an opportunity. But really excited for seeing when we do get to 2 shows, but seeing this and. I'm going to have to go throw some golf bets in that Case talked about because he's way better at that than me.
How about the worst beat of all time yesterday? I don't know how much you guys are paying attention, but Grigor Dimitrov was up 2-0 on the number 1 player in the world. Yannick Sinner looks like he was going to cruise to win. 17-1 underdog, and I've seen some people sharing their slips, had him 17-1, and then he hurts his wrist and has to retire. And Yannick Sinner, I think, even said he does not take this as a victory. He was not celebrating at all. I mean, oh man, you just have to be beside yourself if you had Dimitrov 17-1 yesterday.
Probably the worst thing that happened for the rest of the field also.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah,
you're right. K4Wins.com, K4Wins.com, K4 Winners on the X format. And, of course, your YouTube channel through Tony Kurre Radio is K4 Wins. Check out our YouTube channel. Our shows are live. And, of course, once they go live, they're out there in the social media world, not to mention, of course, where we get your favorite podcast, Tony Kurre Radio, consistently in the top 10% of all podcasts nationwide. We're very proud of that. And we love having great sports stuff. Thanks again to Angel and, of course, the entire crew at 102.9 The Game, and also, of course, Coastal Sports Network for letting us be part of their big winning ways. And we'll look forward to having a second show coming up on Friday. Hope to have all 4 of us a part of that. We know that Case has got a lot going on with the Vegas group, and, of course, Major League sports going on with the NFL and everything else. And, of course, Kipster's going to be part of that as well. So thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate you, man.
All right.
This has been a special presentation of Tony Kurre Radio.